The last time I was in Russia to do a series of lectures, I met many men roughly the ages 18 through 45. And we had many private discussions, good discussions about leadership. I wanted to know how they were doing. Were they standing up and leading in their nation? And they really did level with me. Most of them said they were incapable of leading because they were Russians. They said Russians have a slave-like nature which needs to be led by a strong authoritarian leader. So they said they were very content with the current situation with President Putin. He was doing all the leading and they were doing all the following. And many of these men I was speaking with were the sons and the grandsons of defiant dissidents who had stood up to Brezhnev and Andropov and Gorbachev. And some of those ancestors had paid with their lives in the way that they were resisting tyranny in their country and brought about freedom later on in 1989. But this latest generation of Russians I was working with and dealing with and spending time with had resigned themselves to believe an old Russian lie, a lie about themselves and their culture and their nation, a lie which made all of them really weak. And when the men of a generation fall backward into this kind of weakness, it's much easier for ambitious bad men to flourish when that happens in any nation. So what I told them is what I'm continually telling you who follow this channel. Entire cultures will be influenced by what the men believe and how they lead or how they follow, how they lead or how they retreat. And because here's a truth that I want to leave with you. All men are leaders in some capacity. And when they're going backward in retreat, they can take their entire culture down with them into different kinds of ruin and oblivion and hopelessness. Now, this happens to be a current problem in the county where I live, and I've seen it up close here. Several factories closed down 20, 25 years ago, and the county fell into poverty. And then a lie developed and then swept through the school system, and it was repeated by class after class after class, and it is still repeated there today, and this is what it is. That there can be no hope in this county, and that the only hope is in getting on welfare and letting the government take care of them. Or, here's another solution, it's talked about in the schools, or they could just simply run away to some big city to look for some factory job which will take care of the worker for the rest of his life. Now, this false defeatist idea has really ruined my county. And so my message is no different here than it is anywhere in the world. If men have retreated and have destroyed their culture, believing lies like this and repeating these lies, they need to do an about face and they need to begin leading in a different direction. And so that's what I'm telling the young guys in my county here. Today, there happen to be some young men in this county who are beginning to do this little by little. And I can tell stories. I can go into the high schools, for example, and I can tell stories about businesses they have started and the financial independence they have achieved right here in this depressed county. These young men are free from welfare. They're free from the nanny state. They're free from dictatorial factory bosses. Now, a couple of these young men have no high school diplomas, not even any junior high diplomas, and yet they have made their first million in this poverty-stricken county, and then their second million in the same county. And in the process, the county is gaining financial stability and independence because of the money that's coming in from outside the county and even outside the country. So what these young men are now doing is leading by example, but they're also leading by speaking. They're replacing the old lies with a new truth. They are refuting the old lies, which are blindly and stupidly repeated by young men who simply will not imagine something better for their own hometown. And so this is my message in this video. When weak men around you repeat destructive lies which hurt themselves and other people, you need to be strong. Just stop them from saying it. That's the first step. Just stop them from saying it. Those destructive slogans just continue to roll off their tongues because that's how everyone talks and has talked for a long time. Small towns can be captured by these ideas, and even a nation like Russia can be. And I call these false statements the death murmur of a culture. And if you are willing to stand up and lead, your words can be a life-giving influence on your dying community. So first you stop them from saying it, and then you refute what they're saying and tell them why it's wrong. And then you simply begin to rebuild a new narrative, a true narrative instead of the false one. Every man leads in some particular direction. It's either forward or it's backward. Every man will have continual opportunities to refute what is wrong and to speak up for what is right, especially in a county like ours, where everybody's talking about what's wrong all the time. And in Russia, and especially in that city, St. Petersburg, where I went, it's Putin's hometown. They continually repeat these lies that need to be stopped and refuted. Now, just yesterday, a man published an article suggesting that all leadership is bad because strong leadership tends to be dictatorial, like, for example, the Russian dictators of the 20th century. Now, I want to comment on this. And because, this author was saying, because they were bad, therefore, those dictators who've gone before and all dictators who've gone before, then therefore, what this writer is concluding that all leadership is bad. Period. All leadership is bad. So he's just saying no one should lead because it gets out of hand. It's bad. Well, let me refute that right now. And this is the kind of thing we need to be doing. If there's a bad idea circulating, we have to stop and refute it. Good leadership is good. Truthful leadership is necessary. It's false to deny that the world can exist without any leadership, because every man is leading in some direction, either forward into truth or backward into a destructive death culture. Now, here's one final example I want to give to you about how easy it is to go with the crowd and be a destructive leader. This is a true story. Last month, a few lazy workers at a Dollar General store began complaining about, they were complaining about everything, but especially their salaries. They were not thankful that they had jobs. They were not content with their wages. They were not willing to live within their means. They were not willing to contribute to the free market economy by making their place of business, that Dollar General store, a local success and a real service to people. So a few grumblers at that store began repeating the typical liberal lies, and no one refuted them. And soon all the workers in the store were bitter and they were grumbling and they were repeating the same lies. And then every single one of them decided to quit and go on welfare. And as they left the store, they taped their false and stupid arguments on the front window. I don't have a real good picture of it, but here's what they put out there. And I want to look at some of these statements, some of these illogical, contradictory lies that were repeated by those too weak to do anything but just follow the herd. Number one is this one. It says, Google, quote, general strike, and learn how we can take our power back. And then it says, to our loyal customers who treated us with respect, thank you. We love you, end quote. And so apparently they found their power to quit and go on welfare. That's not power. That's retreat. That's defeatism. And apparently they found power to leave their customers without any local place to get their daily bread. Now, how is it love to abandon the customers who've been good to you? That's not love. Now look at the second one. Closed indefinitely because Dollar General does not pay a living wage or treat their employees with respect. Now, someone just simply should have said, stop. Just stop complaining. Our boss is doing both for us. He's paying us on time. He's paying us a living wage if we will simply live within a disciplined budget. And here's the third one. Capitalism will destroy this country. If you don't pay people enough to live their lives, why should they slave away for you? Okay, look at this. Here are three really ugly lies on just one card. Capitalism is not an evil. Capitalism makes it possible for retail stores to exist. And this is the kind of thing we need to re-educate people about. And you can do that when you hear this kind of insane grumbling. It makes it possible for stores to exist, for people to start businesses and to be in business, for jobs to exist. and for better and better products to be available at better prices every year in these stores. And so if you define living your life as being lazy and undisciplined and buying more and more things that you can't afford, you need to learn some gratitude and responsibility. And this is what someone should have said to these workers who were complaining. Preferably one of their coworkers, just to say, hey, come on. It's time to get real and be truthful about this and show a little gratitude and show a little bit of responsibility. That's how we can go on in life. We can save money. We don't have to spend everything that we get on the way we think we live our lives. We need to do better than that. Being an employee is not a condition of slavery. And that's some... Do they even know what slavery is? That is not slavery. It's freedom. It's a contractual agreement entered into voluntarily and freely to give an honest amount of work for an honest amount of pay. And that's what they were doing. It was freedom. It was not slavery. One former employee told the local news channel, I decided to quit because I was no longer going to take the abuse that Dollar General was giving. Okay. Do you hear what that person is saying? Talking about abuse, talking about being a victim. And then this person went on to say, and as the day progressed, I got more upset. And so, well, of course you will. If you're grumbling with your friends, you'll play the victim. And you'll listen to all your friends calling your employee a victimizer or an abuser. And you probably will indulge a really rash, untruthful conclusion. And you'll get bitter, and then you'll get more bitter. And you'll blame someone who doesn't deserve blame. And then you probably will quit, especially if it's so easy to get politicians like fill in the blank to confiscate money from responsible, hardworking taxpayers and give it to you so that you can live a life of selfish bitterness and imaginary victimhood. And so, if you were one of those co-workers at Dollar General, would you have followed the herd or would you have told your complaining coworkers to get refocused on the truth? So this is my question for you. What kind of leader are you? In what direction are you taking the culture around you, whether you live in Russia or whether you live in Maine or whether you live in my county? In what direction are you taking the culture? One of the greatest contributions you can make right now is to speak up confidently and bravely with the truth every single time you hear stupidity or you hear lies or you hear ingratitude, and it's taking over the minds of those around you. You need to help them. Now, they're surrounded by this. They're inundated with this kind of thinking, and it takes work to get their brains fixed and turned around and healed and filled with something that's true. And unless they hear it, how's that going to happen? Unless they hear it from you, how will that happen? So where do you start? Well, just simply refute the next mindless slogan which rolls off the tongue of someone in your community. Help them back to the truth carefully and do it wisely. The lips of the wise make knowledge acceptable, as the old proverb goes. The lips of the wise make knowledge acceptable. You need to make this knowledge acceptable. Reason with them. I'm Jeffrey Botkin. Now, if this has challenged you, please like and share and stay connected with a community on this channel which is learning together how to stand up and lead. Thank you.